Look what we have here. This is the original king of the mixers, the Vestax 07 Pro. And this is one of my original mixers. I actually got this back after being gone for quite a long time. Lent it out to a buddy of mine, and it served him well. And now I finally have it back in my possession. So it's still in pretty decent shape, but I definitely want to do a cleaning on it. And so that's basically what I'm gonna do here. I'm just gonna clean this mixer up, take off the faceplate, clean the faders, and yeah, we'll get started on that. So if y'all don't know about the Vestax line of mixers, this was the top of the line back in the late to early 2000s. Vestax was the king. Like, they were the greatest mixer out there, especially for scratch and battle DJs. This was the 07 Pro. This one was, like I said, this was like the flagship mixer. It had everything that a DJ could want on it. It had a 3-band EQ. You had your left and right balance for pan, monitor select, master Q. You had in the front, you actually had crossfader curve, reverse, volume curve and reverse, so you could switch the volumes as well if you wanted to cut down and up. If you wanted a fast fade or a gradual fade, you could switch those up too. I loved the actual fade on the 07s. There was just something about them, especially when you were doing like 2-click fades, that they just can't be replicated by any of the mixers today. So anyway, let's take out these 4 screws here. And literally, it's been about, I would say, 12 years since I've had this mixer. So as you can see here on the front, see this little line here? All of this right here is laminating paper, and I started doing that back in like the early 2000s, where I would put laminate paper on my mixer faceplates, so it would protect the faceplate from the paint from wearing thin. And you can see this has been on there for a while. It's got the little bubbles on here, and it's kind of tearing up here, but the paint looks untouched, so that's good. From what my buddy was telling me, there's been a lot of famous DJs that have touched this mixer, which is awesome. DJ Swamp, Rock Raider, just to name a couple of DJs that have actually played on this mixer. So take the 4 screws out, and then the faceplate just lifts right out. I'll definitely have to clean this thing up. I don't know what the inside of this thing's going to look like after 12 years of not having it, but you can see Vestax was really one of the first companies that had the battle scratch DJ in mind. The phono line switches here were completely adjustable, so you could switch them 360 degrees if you wanted to. The volumes, these ones here are actually the PCV volumes and faders. These were my absolute favorite faders when they came out. Previous to these, they had the Alps faders, and the Alps faders were decent, but you could never really truly get them smooth like these were. You know, we back in the day, me and my buddies, you know, when we started modifying faders and stuff, you know, we would take the Alps faders apart and remove pieces, and, you know, lube up the bars and kind of bend the little contacts back so that you know, there would be less friction on the board. And, you know, we tried to do as much as we could with them. But when the PCV faders came out, oh my gosh, it made it so much easier to clean the faders and maintenance them. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna take out the crossfader, and man, I don't even know how much dust and debris is gonna be built up on these, but yeah, the faders were all pretty much user You could use them pretty much on either side. The wiring the contacts on the bores were real similar to each other, especially with these faders here. So I know I had messed up one of my crossfaders a long time ago. I didn't mess it up, but it stopped working. So what ended up happening was I had an extra volume fader, and I made the volume fader a crossfader just by soldering a few wires onto it to make it work. So anyway, let's disconnect this here. So there you go, fader's already out. We're going to take this little plate off here as well. Now these 4 screws, they are different dimensions or different sizes, so you want to make sure that you don't mix that up. But you can see, I mean, these things are in pretty bad shape as far as dust wise. I mean, look at that little piece of dust right there just sitting on top. Look at all this, look at this buildup in here. And this fader's still pretty smooth. I mean, you know, look at that. But anyway, what I used to do with these, because these come apart, I would cut the little metal piece right here, and then this whole little piece would just come out. So they just unclip, super easy like that. Boom. And this is back when Vestax actually had the heavier metal plate in the fader, and I preferred that because it made the fader a little heavier, so it actually kind of helped the fader bounce a little bit more. But I mean, look at all of this buildup inside here. So we're going to clean this out, and I'm going to show you exactly how I used to clean these. You'll probably freak out when you see the way that I do clean these, but believe me, it doesn't hurt the fader any. And yeah, we'll move on from there. Alright guys, so this is basically the process of cleaning these faders out, and you can see, look inside here, look at all this dirt and this buildup here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take these 2 little screws off, and you can see I have 2 bowls here. Now, usually I'll do this in the sink, but I really didn't want to move the camera and all that stuff, so I just got 2 bowls here. This one's just water with a little bit of dish soap, and this one's just clean water here. And you're probably thinking, what the heck are you doing? You're gonna put these in just regular water? Well, yeah. And this is literally how I cleaned all of my stuff. So anyway, so we're gonna take this screw out, take this screw out here, and these little screws you definitely want to be careful with. You don't want to lose them because they are really small. Okay, so there's that one and that one. Look, so that little plate, once you take the screws out, that little plate's just gonna lift off. We can put that in here as well, and let's get a little bit of suds in the water here. Get some soap going here. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a toothbrush, just a real soft bristle toothbrush, put a little bit of soap and water in here, and then we're just gonna brush it like we were brushing our teeth, and we're gonna get all of that dirt and build up. I mean, look at that. Look at that. Wow, these things haven't been cleaned in a while. So we're gonna try to clean the board. We're gonna clean the bars. Try to get this stuff as clean as best as possible. I mean, look at that. Okay. But you're probably thinking, oh my gosh, is this gonna damage the faders, or what's it gonna do? And no, it won't damage anything. Main thing is we're just gonna, we'll let them dry out, and got to get all the soap and everything out of there. But we want to clean that board too at the bottom there, clean those contacts. This was a really innovative design, probably one of my better favorite designs for faders, having the bars kind of over each other as opposed to next to each other. But more faders ended up being like that, so I kind of got used to the faders with the bars running side by side instead of stacked over each other. But this by far was my fader of choice. So now that that's clean like that, we're just going to dip it in the water here and get all of that soap and stuff off of the board and the bars there. And then we're just going to let that one dry out and we'll move on to the next volume. Okay, so now that I have the volumes and the crossfader all dry, we're going to put them back together. Typically what I'll do to dry them off faster, I'll use like a Q-tip or a rag, or what I usually like to do is put them in front of a fan and let the air hit the faders, and then it kind of dries it out a little quicker. But what we're going to do is we're actually going to take the plate here for the fader stem, and we're going to put that back onto the slider itself. It'll fit only one way. You can see right here, it just slides right over the top and it'll kind of click in place. And you'll need to take your little screws here, put those back in place as well, and now you can screw those back in. And oops, let's see here. So the fader is nice and clean now. It's moving, you know, fairly smooth. Got all the dust and dirt and everything out of there. But usually what I'll do is I'll add a little bit of oil. Gun oil is basically what I use, and I'll put some on the bars, then I put a little bit on the board itself, and it just helps relieve some of the friction on the bars and the slider, and it helps it slide a lot smoother, and the more you use it, the smoother it gets. So I'm going to put some of that right now on the bar here, and I've been doing this with these types of faders and all of the bar faders since the early 2000s, and it works really well. I like using this over all of the other stuff that's out there. The gun oil seems to work the best for me, but you can use any type of oil that you want to use. But this is the type that I like to use, and in fact it's Outer's gun oil is what I like to use, if you need to know the brand, and it's the lube oil. So now that I got that in there. I'll just move this back and forth like so. And now when you tilt this over, see, it should start to move on its own. So nice and smooth, and the more you use it, like I said, the more it'll actually work its way into the bars and into the slider. So now that we have that set like that, we're going to take this plate here and we'll click that back over the top, and that's pretty much that. We'll get the plate here, put that back over the top, and now we'll find our mounting screws for the plate. Those ones were the shorter screws, so it's going to be the smaller ones here. You can see they're a lot shorter, and we can screw those back in as well. Oops. Just like so. There we go. Now we just need to hook it back into the mixer, and these will only slide on one way. Locks in place, drop it in, and then we just got to put the screws in and that'll lock it in place there. And then we'll do the same thing with the volumes and get those back into the mixer as well. And two. Go. Good. Tighten those up. Make sure they're nice and snug. You don't need to over tighten them though. And that's it. And it's back in the mixer. Just like that. So we're gonna put the rest of these together and go from there. Alright, so let's turn this bad boy on. Nice. Forgot how far of a cut-in time this is compared to like the newer faders. Yeah. But they're smooth. And I missed that clicking sound. That was just a sound that everybody was used to, you know, with them old Vestax mixers. Just that click. And this mixer was cool because it had, you know, different features. Like I said before, it had the EQ. It also had a program reverse, so you could switch the channels if you wanted to. So see how it's on your left side? Now it's on the right side. You know, so the other cool thing was your reverse switch, normal, everything on your volumes. So if you wanted that fade, you could have the fade. Then you had your balance, master Q. It's an awesome mixer, man, for its time. But anyway, it's cool to have this mixer back. It just brings back a lot of memories for me, and yeah, I miss this company for sure. So yeah, thanks for sticking through and watching the whole cleaning process, and yeah, I'll keep them coming. Peace for now.